Welcome, dear listener, to a journey through deep time, to an age when the world moved at a different pace, when giants walked softly through forests that stretched endless beneath warm skies. Tonight, let yourself drift back through the millions of years, past the hurried present, past the ice ages and mountain building, all the way back to the age of dinosaurs. There's something deeply soothing about dinosaurs when we allow ourselves to truly consider them, not as the roaring monsters of movies, but as living beings who breathed the same air we breathe, felt sunshine on their scales and feathers, and lived their quiet lives in worlds of green and blue. These were creatures who spent their days basking in warm shallows, browsing peacefully through prehistoric forests, and resting in the cool shade of ancient trees. So settle in now, let your body relax completely into whatever surface supports you. Let your breathing slow and deepen. As you close your eyes, imagine that you're stepping through a doorway in time, leaving behind all the noise and rush of the modern world, and entering a realm where time itself moved more gently, where every moment stretched long and peaceful under skies that had never known the sound of anything but wind, water, and the soft calls of ancient creatures. Let's begin our journey together, exploring the most calming, most fascinating aspects of dinosaur life, their gentle behaviors, their peaceful existence, and the beautiful world they inhabited for so many millions of years. The dawn of the dinosaur age. Our story begins in the Triassic period, roughly 252 million years ago, in a world still recovering from the greatest extinction event Earth has ever known. The Permian-Triassic extinction had wiped away an estimated 96% of all marine species and 70% of terrestrial vertebrates, leaving behind a planet that was, in many ways, starting fresh. The air was different then, slightly richer in carbon dioxide, and the climate was warm, almost uniformly warm from pole to pole, creating a hothouse world where frost and ice were unknown luxuries that wouldn't arrive for many millions of years. In this recovering world, the continents were not scattered as they are today, but fused together into one massive supercontinent called Pangaea, a word that simply means all Earth. Picture this enormous landmass straddling the equator, surrounded by a single vast ocean called Panthalassa. The interior of Pangaea was harsh, dominated by deserts where temperatures soared during endless summer days. But along the coasts and in certain favored valleys, life found purchase and began, slowly, patiently, to rebuild. The landscapes of the early Triassic were strange and would seem alien to us now. Forests grew, but they were forests of seed ferns and early conifers, of cycads with their palm-like fronds and thick trunks, and of ferns that carpeted the moist ground in shades of green. There were no flowers yet, no grass, none of the familiar angiosperms that would later paint the world in bright colors. Instead, the dominant colors were greens and browns, the earth tones of a world still finding its way. Into this world, about 243 million years ago, came the first dinosaur ancestors. These weren't the giants we often imagine when we think of dinosaurs. They were small creatures, many no larger than a modern crow, lightweight and built for agility. They walked on two legs, their bodies held horizontally with long tails extending behind them for balance. These early dinosauromorphs, as scientists call them, were probably carnivores or omnivores, quick-moving hunters of insects and small reptiles in the undergrowth of Triassic forests. For many millions of years, these early dinosaur relatives remained small and relatively uncommon. The world of the Triassic was dominated by other creatures, different branches of the Archosaur family tree that had recovered more quickly from the Great Extinction. There were the mammal-like reptiles called cynodonts, hairy creatures with whiskers who hunted and foraged in the shadows. There were the rhynchosaurs, stout herbivores with beaks that worked the low vegetation. And most successfully of all, there were the pseudosuchians, relatives of modern crocodiles, who came in an astonishing variety of forms, from armored herbivores to apex predators. The first true dinosaurs appeared around 233 million years ago during the late Triassic. These early dinosaurs still weren't the dominant animals in their ecosystems. They were supporting players in a world run by others. But they had certain advantages that would serve them well in the ages to come. Their upright stance, with legs positioned directly beneath their bodies rather than sprawling out to the sides like those of most reptiles, gave them efficiency of movement and likely allowed for higher stamina. Their relatively efficient respiratory systems, which may have included air sacs similar to those found in modern birds, meant they could maintain activity for longer periods. But mostly, these early dinosaurs were just quietly living their lives, hunting, foraging, reproducing, slowly diversifying into different forms and filling different ecological roles. Some remained small and swift. Others began to grow larger, experimenting with different body plans and different diets. And then, at the end of the Triassic period, approximately 201 million years ago, something happened that would change everything for dinosaurs. Another extinction event struck, the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, caused perhaps by massive volcanic eruptions or climate change, or a combination of catastrophes. This event was less devastating than the Great Dying at the end of the Permian, but it was thorough enough. It wiped out many of the groups that had been dominating the Triassic world. The large pseudosuchians vanished. Most of the mammal-like reptiles disappeared. Many groups of marine reptiles were lost to time. But the dinosaurs survived. Not only survived, but found themselves quite suddenly in a world with newly vacant ecological niches. The competition that had kept them small and uncommon was gone. Before them stretched empty roles waiting to be filled, and the dinosaurs, with their efficient bodies and adaptable nature, moved in to fill them. The Jurassic period that followed would truly become the age of dinosaurs, and it would last for another 56 million years, with dinosaurs diversifying into every imaginable form, from tiny insect eaters to the largest land animals that have ever existed. It's soothing, in a way, to think about this slow unfolding of life. These changes didn't happen overnight. They unfolded over millions and millions of years, countless generations of dinosaurs living and dying, each one slightly different from its parents. Each small change accumulating slowly until the descendants bore little resemblance to their ancient ancestors. There was no hurry, no rush, just the patient work of evolution, shaping and reshaping life according to the demands of environment and opportunity. And through it all, individual dinosaurs went about their days, eating, drinking, resting in the sun, entirely unaware that they were part of any grand narrative at all. Gentle giants, the sauropods. Of all the dinosaurs, perhaps none captures our imagination quite like the sauropods, those impossibly enormous, long-necked herbivores who are among the most peaceful creatures to ever walk the earth. Picture in your mind a brachiosaurus standing in a clearing in a Jurassic forest. Its body is as large as a house, supported on 4 pillar-like legs as thick as tree trunks. Its neck stretches upward, rising and rising until the small head at the end of it disappears into the canopy, 40 or 50 feet above the forest floor. There it browses peacefully on the tender shoots and leaves that grow in the uppermost branches, accessible to no other creature. The sauropods evolved during the Jurassic period and quickly became the dominant large herbivores of their age. They came in many varieties, each adapted to its own particular way of life. The diplodocids, including the famous Diplodocus and Apatosaurus, had extremely long tails that they held out behind them, sometimes ending in a whip-like structure that may have been used for defense or communication. Their necks were long, but often held more horizontally than upright, allowing them to sweep across wide areas of low-growing vegetation without needing to move their massive bodies frequently. These animals were built for efficiency in the most remarkable ways. Their necks contained hollow chambers in the vertebrae, reducing weight while maintaining strength, allowing them to hold those enormous necks aloft without requiring impossibly powerful muscles. Their heads were tiny in proportion to their bodies, just big enough to house simple teeth designed for stripping leaves from branches. They couldn't chew their food, couldn't process it in their mouths at all. Instead, they simply harvested vegetation as quickly as possible, swallowing it whole to be processed later in their enormous guts. Recent fossil discoveries have given us our first direct evidence of what sauropods actually ate. In Australia, paleontologists discovered a fossilized Diamantinosaurus, a titanosaur that lived around 94 to 101 million years ago. This specimen is unique because preserved within its body cavity, sealed inside a layer of mineralized skin, was the dinosaur's last meal. Inside were the fossilized remains of conifer needles, flowering plant leaves, and seed fern fruiting bodies, all mostly unchewed. This beautiful preservation shows us that sauropods were generalist feeders, eating from a variety of plant species and feeding at different heights, from ground-level vegetation to high canopy branches. The daily life of a sauropod was a study in peaceful routine. These animals likely lived in herds, as evidenced by fossil trackways showing multiple sauropods moving together, adults and juveniles mixing in large groups. They would have spent most of their waking hours eating, moving slowly through their territories and consuming enormous quantities of vegetation. A large sauropod might have eaten 500 kilograms or more of plant matter every single day. This was necessary to fuel bodies that could weigh 50 to 80 metric tons or even more in the largest species. But eating wasn't constant activity. Sauropods also needed time to rest, to allow their digestive systems to work on all that tough plant material. They may have used gastroliths, stones deliberately swallowed to sit in the stomach and help grind up food, just as modern birds use grit to process seeds. The grinding action of these stomach stones, combined with bacterial fermentation in enormous intestinal chambers, would have slowly broken down the cellulose and other tough compounds in their food, extracting the nutrients needed to sustain their massive forms. Imagine watching a herd of Brachiosaurus on a warm Jurassic afternoon. The air is thick and humid, rich with oxygen. The light filters down through the high canopy in dappled patterns, and you can hear the gentle sounds of these giants feeding. There's the rustle of branches as a neck extends upward, the soft sound of leaves being stripped and swallowed, perhaps the occasional low rumble of contentment or communication. Sounds too deep and quiet to be threatening, just the social noises of herd animals staying in contact with each other. These weren't aggressive animals. They had no need to be. Their size alone protected them from most predators, and their diet didn't require them to hunt or chase anything. They simply needed to reach the plants that grew all around them, to eat enough to sustain themselves, and to stay together for safety and social comfort. Studies of their trackways show they could move surprisingly quickly when needed, perhaps reaching speeds of 20 to 30 kilometers per hour in short bursts, but most of the time they moved slowly, ponderously, conserving energy and going about their business with calm deliberation. The largest sauropods known to science include specimens like Argentinosaurus and Patagotitan, South American giants that may have reached lengths of 100 feet and weights of 70 tons or more. These were the largest land animals ever to exist, pushing the very limits of what is physically possible for a terrestrial creature. Biomechanical studies suggest that animals this large were operating near the maximum size possible, while still being able to support their own weight and move effectively. Any larger and the stresses on their joints and bones would have become too great, limiting their mobility or risking injury with every step. Yet, even at these colossal sizes, sauropods were successful. They dominated their ecosystems for over 140 million years, from the Jurassic through the very end of the Cretaceous period. Their success was built on simplicity. Eat plants, grow large, stay together, and let your size protect you. No complex predatory strategies were needed, no elaborate defenses beyond the sheer deterrent of mass. Just peaceful, persistent herbivory generation after generation, for longer than the human species has existed many times over. When you close your eyes and imagine these gentle giants, moving slowly through ancient forests, their long necks swaying gently as they feed, their enormous feet leaving deep impressions in soft earth, there's something profoundly calming about their existence. They were creatures whose entire strategy for survival was based not on aggression or violence, but on size, on efficiency, on the simple ability to outlast any threat by being too big to be worth the trouble of attacking. In a very real sense, they achieved peace through presence, and they thrived because of it. Feathered friends, the connection to birds. Now let us turn our attention to one of the most beautiful revelations in modern paleontology, the discovery that many dinosaurs weren't covered in scales at all but were clothed in feathers, making them quite literally the ancestors of the birds that sing outside our windows today. This connection between dinosaurs and birds has transformed our understanding of what dinosaurs were like, not just in appearance, but in behavior, in intelligence, and in the richness of their lives. The story of feathered dinosaurs truly began in earnest in the 1990s, when exceptional fossil deposits in northeastern China, particularly in Liaoning province, started yielding specimens that changed everything. These fossils, preserved in volcanic ash that had buried them quickly and completely, showed not just bones but also soft tissues, including the unmistakable impressions of feathers. The first of these discoveries was Sinosauropteryx, announced in 1996, a small theropod dinosaur about the size of a chicken that was covered not in scales, but in a coat of simple, hair-like filaments. These weren't the complex feathers of modern birds. Not yet. They were simpler structures, sometimes called protofeathers or dinofuzz, filaments that extended from the skin and covered parts of the animal's body. But here's something wonderful. When scientists analyzed these preserved filaments, they could actually determine what color they had been in life. The secret lies in tiny structures called melanosomes, which contain the pigments that give feathers and hair their colors. Different shapes of melanosomes correspond to different colors, and these shapes are preserved in fossils. When researchers examined Sinosauropteryx, they found that this little dinosaur had been a rusty red color, with a tail banded in red and white stripes, not unlike a red panda's tail. This wasn't just decoration either. The color pattern would have helped the animal blend into its forest habitat, the red matching the warm tones of tree bark and fallen leaves, while the striped tail likely served as a visual signal to other members of its species. Imagine it, a small, quick predator moving through the Cretaceous undergrowth, its red coat helping it avoid being seen by larger predators, its tail flicking back and forth as a kind of communication, warning others away or perhaps attracting a mate. As more feathered dinosaurs were discovered, the variety of plumage became apparent. There was Microraptor, a small theropod that had not just feathers on its arms, but also long flight feathers extending from its hind legs, creating a four-winged configuration. Analysis of its melanosomes showed that Microraptor had iridescent plumage, feathers that would have shimmered with rainbow colors in the sunlight, much like a modern crow or grackle. This tiny dinosaur, weighing less than a kilogram, could likely glide or even fly between trees in the forests where it lived 125 million years ago. Then there was Kaihong, whose name literally means rainbow in Chinese. This dinosaur lived 161 million years ago, making it one of the earliest feathered dinosaurs discovered. It was crow-sized and covered in long feathers from head to toe. Its plumage was iridescent and would have displayed brilliant colors when light struck it at the right angles. Some of its feathers showed asymmetry, with one edge shorter than the other, a feature associated with flight in modern birds. Kaihong may have been capable of at least limited flight, flapping and gliding through Jurassic forests. The evolution of feathers is a story of multiple functions. Initially, simple filaments may have served primarily for insulation, helping small dinosaurs maintain their body temperature. Feathers are excellent insulators, trapping warm air close to the skin, and they would have been particularly useful for small dinosaurs, which lose heat rapidly due to their high surface area to volume ratio. This is why even quite large dinosaurs, like the 23-foot-long Tyrannosaur uteranus, were covered in fuzzy protofeathers. They likely used these for insulation and perhaps display rather than for any kind of flight. But feathers also served for visual display and communication. The elaborate colors found in feathered dinosaurs, the iridescence and patterns, all point to complex social lives where visual signals mattered. Animals don't evolve bright colors unless other members of their species can see and respond to those colors. The presence of rainbow-hued plumage in Kaihong and glossy black in Microraptor suggests these dinosaurs had good color vision and used their appearance to communicate with potential mates and rivals. It's worth taking a moment to sit with the image of these colorful, feathered dinosaurs. For so long, dinosaurs were reconstructed as dull brown or gray lizard-like creatures, but the reality was far more vibrant. Picture a forest in the Middle Jurassic or early Cretaceous, dappled sunlight filtering through the canopy, and in the trees, small feathered dinosaurs moving through the branches. Their plumage catches the light, flashing iridescent blues and greens, deep blacks and rich chestnuts. One calls to another, and you hear not a roar but perhaps a chirp or trill, sounds more bird-like than reptilian. Another dinosaur, its tail striped in red and white, pauses on a branch to preen its feathers, carefully maintaining the condition of its insulating coat. The connection to modern birds is direct and undeniable. Birds didn't just evolve from dinosaurs. Birds are dinosaurs, the only surviving lineage of a group that once dominated the planet. When you watch a sparrow hopping through your garden, you're watching a dinosaur, a direct descendant of the theropods that ran through Mesozoic forests. That sparrow's feathers, its wishbone, its hollow bones, its efficient respiratory system with flow-through lungs, its maternal care of its eggs, all of these features were inherited from its dinosaurian ancestors. This realization adds a beautiful continuity to life on Earth. The dinosaurs aren't truly gone. They never went extinct. They simply changed, adapted, became smaller, and took to the air in one lineage while all their relatives perished in the Great Extinction 66 million years ago. Every morning when birds begin their dawn chorus, you're hearing the voices of living dinosaurs, creatures whose ancestors witnessed the rise and fall of the great reptilian dynasties, who flew through skies where pterosaurs once ruled, and who managed, through adaptation and resilience, to survive catastrophes that destroyed everything around them. There's something deeply peaceful in this knowledge, the understanding that life persists, that connections stretch unbroken across unimaginable spans of time, and that the small bird at your feeder shares a lineage with the enormous beasts that walked in deep time. It reminds us that change is constant, that nothing remains static, but that through all change, life endures, transforming but never truly ending. Life in the Mesozoic waters and skies. While dinosaurs dominated the land throughout the Mesozoic, they shared their world with extraordinary creatures in the seas and skies, animals that were contemporaries of the dinosaurs though not dinosaurs themselves. Understanding these creatures helps us paint a fuller picture of the ancient world, a world teeming with life in every environment, where evolution experimented with countless forms. The oceans of the Mesozoic were perhaps even stranger and more wonderful than the lands. Here lived the marine reptiles, creatures that had returned to the sea from land-dwelling ancestors and evolved into forms perfectly adapted for life in the water. The ichthyosaurs, whose name means fish lizards, looked remarkably like modern dolphins or porpoises. They were fast swimmers with streamlined bodies, large eyes for hunting in deep or murky water, and they gave birth to live young rather than laying eggs, an adaptation necessary for animals that never came to shore. Ichthyosaurs first appeared in the early Triassic, just a few million years after the Great Extinction that ended the Permian period, and they diversified into many species, some quite small and others reaching lengths of 60 feet or more. They fed on fish and squid-like creatures called belemnites, using their pointed snouts filled with sharp teeth to catch swift-moving prey. Some ichthyosaur fossils show such exquisite preservation that we can see the outlines of their bodies, including the shape of their dorsal fins and tail flukes, structures that wouldn't normally fossilize because they contained no bone. The plesiosaurs were another major group of marine reptiles, and they looked like nothing alive today. They had barrel-shaped bodies for large flippers that they used to fly through the water in a rowing motion, and many species had extraordinarily long necks. Elasmosaurus, from the late Cretaceous, had a neck that made up more than half its 30-foot body length, giving it a serpentine appearance as it swam. These long-necked plesiosaurs likely fed by using their necks to reach into schools of fish, snapping up prey with their small heads and needle-like teeth. Other plesiosaurs, called pliosaurs, went in the opposite direction, evolving short necks and enormous heads filled with massive teeth. These were the apex predators of the Mesozoic seas, Animals like Liopleurodon and Kronosaurus that could grow to 30 or 40 feet in length and had bite forces that rivaled or exceeded those of Tyrannosaurus rex. These were animals built to hunt other large marine reptiles, to take down even other plesiosaurs or large fish. Later in the Cretaceous, a new group of marine predators appeared, the mosasaurs. These were actually marine lizards, relatives of modern monitor lizards that had taken to the sea. They grew to enormous sizes, with Mosasaurus itself reaching lengths of over 50 feet. They had powerful jaws, streamlined bodies, and paddle-like limbs, and they were highly successful, spreading throughout the world's oceans. Some mosasaurs specialized in crushing hard-shelled prey like ammonites and turtles, while others were pursuit predators that chased down fish and other swimming prey. In the skies above both land and sea flew the pterosaurs, reptiles that had evolved true powered flight long before birds. Pterosaurs first appeared in the late Triassic, at roughly the same time as the earliest dinosaurs, and they would dominate the skies for the entire Mesozoic era. They ranged in size from tiny species with wingspans measured in inches to the largest flying animals that have ever existed. Early pterosaurs like Dimorphodon had long tails with diamond-shaped veins at the end, which helped with stability in flight. They had large heads with sharp teeth and likely fed on fish or insects. As pterosaurs evolved, later forms lost the long tail and developed short, almost vestigial tails, while their bodies and flight capabilities became more sophisticated. These later pterosaurs included groups like the pteranodontids, which had long crests extending from the backs of their skulls and wingspans reaching 20 feet or more. The largest pterosaurs, members of the Asdarchid family, were truly colossal. Quetzalcoatlus, from the late Cretaceous of North America, had an estimated wingspan of 35 to 40 feet, making it the size of a small airplane. Despite this enormous wingspan, it weighed perhaps only 500 pounds, with much of its structure consisting of hollow bones and an incredibly efficient design. On the ground, Quetzalcoatlus stood as tall as a giraffe and likely walked on all fours, folding its wings alongside its body. It probably hunted small dinosaurs and other animals on the ground, stalking through late Cretaceous landscapes like some enormous terrestrial bird. The pterosaur wing was very different from a bird wing. It consisted of a membrane of skin and muscle stretched between the body and an enormously elongated fourth finger. 3 normal-length fingers extended from the middle of the wing and could be used for grasping when the animal was on the ground. The wing membrane was not just passive skin but contained fibers that allowed the pterosaur to adjust its shape in flight, controlling its aerodynamics with precision. Recent discoveries suggest that pterosaurs, like many dinosaurs, were covered in hair-like filaments called pycnofibers, which may have served for insulation. Many pterosaurs also had elaborate crests, some made of bone and others of soft tissue, which likely served as visual signals and may have played roles in mate selection or species recognition. Some crests were so large and elaborate that they seem impractical, but this is often the case with structures used for sexual display, where the point is to demonstrate fitness through the very impracticality of the ornamentation. All of these creatures, the marine reptiles and pterosaurs, were contemporaries of the dinosaurs but not dinosaurs themselves. They represent parallel experiments in evolution, different lineages of reptiles adapting to different environments and different ways of life. And yet they shared the world with dinosaurs peacefully for millions and millions of years. A brachiosaurus drinking at the shore of a Jurassic Sea might have seen Liopleurodons surfacing to breathe. A pteranodon soaring over Cretaceous waves could look down and see mosasaurs hunting below the surface. The world was full, rich with diversity, with every ecological niche occupied by creatures wonderfully adapted to their particular ways of life. There's a kind of completeness to this picture that is deeply satisfying. The Mesozoic world wasn't just about dinosaurs on land. It was about a fully realized ecosystem spanning all environments, from the deepest oceans to the highest reaches of the atmosphere. Every part of the biosphere teeming with reptilian life that had diversified and adapted over 180 million years. It was a world in balance, stable and successful, where the same basic patterns persisted epoch after epoch, where the descendants of the Triassic recovery had filled the world and made it their own. The peaceful plant eaters. Let us return now to the land and consider the great herbivorous dinosaurs. Those peaceful plant eaters who formed the base of the dinosaur ecosystem and whose gentle presence shaped the landscapes they inhabited. These weren't just the sauropods, though they were the largest. Many other groups of herbivorous dinosaurs evolved throughout the Mesozoic, each developing unique adaptations for processing tough plant material and protecting themselves from predators without resorting to aggression. Consider Stegosaurus, one of the most recognizable dinosaurs, with its distinctive double row of large plates running down its back and its tail armed with 4 long spikes. This dinosaur lived in the late Jurassic, around 150 million years ago, in what is now Western North America. Despite its armored appearance, Stegosaurus was a herbivore, feeding on low-growing plants, ferns, and cycads. Its beak was toothless at the front, useful for cropping vegetation, while small teeth further back in the jaw helped process the food before swallowing. The plates on Stegosaurus's back have been the subject of much debate. They weren't armor in the traditional sense, as they weren't particularly thick or strong, and the spaces between them left large areas of the body unprotected. Instead, many scientists now think these plates served primarily for display, perhaps helping members of the same species recognize each other or allowing individuals to signal their size and health to potential mates or rivals. The plates may also have played a role in thermoregulation, with blood vessels running through them allowing the animal to dump excess heat when necessary. The tail spikes, called the thagomizer, were almost certainly defensive weapons, though Stegosaurus likely used them only as a last resort. Evidence from fossilized Allosaurus bones shows injuries consistent with being struck by Stegosaurus tail spikes, so we know these weapons could be effective. But the lifestyle of Stegosaurus was fundamentally peaceful. Move slowly through your territory, feed on available vegetation, stay with the herd for protection, and only fight when absolutely necessary. Triceratops, living at the very end of the Cretaceous period, represents another approach to herbivorous life. This dinosaur was roughly the size and weight of an elephant, with a massive skull that could be nearly 8 feet long. The skull bore 3 horns, 2 long ones over the eyes and a shorter one on the nose, and a large bony frill extended backward, protecting the neck. Like Stegosaurus, Triceratops was a plant eater, using its parrot-like beak to crop vegetation and numerous teeth further back for chewing. The horns and frill of Triceratops were likely used primarily for display and intraspecific competition rather than defense against predators. Fossil evidence shows that Triceratops individuals sometimes used their horns in combat with each other, with skulls showing injuries and healed wounds consistent with horn strikes. These were probably dominance contests, males fighting for territory or mates using ritualized combat where the goal was to demonstrate superiority rather than to kill the opponent. But Triceratops also lived alongside Tyrannosaurus rex, and the horns and frill could certainly have served as defense when necessary. A healthy adult Triceratops, standing its ground with lowered head and horns pointed forward, would have been a formidable opponent even for the largest predator. But again, this was defense, not aggression. The preferred strategy for Triceratops was probably to avoid confrontation through vigilance, staying with the herd and relying on many eyes to spot danger early enough to either flee or prepare a united defense. The ankylosaurs represent perhaps the ultimate in defensive adaptation among herbivorous dinosaurs. Animals like Ankylosaurus had bodies covered in thick bony plates and studs, creating armor that would have been nearly impenetrable to the teeth and claws of any predator. Their tails ended in massive clubs of fused bone that could be swung with considerable force, capable of breaking the bones of any predator foolish enough to attack. And yet, for all this armor and weaponry, ankylosaurs were peaceful animals, moving slowly on 4 short legs, feeding on low-growing plants with their wide beaks, living their lives in quiet obscurity unless threatened. The hadrosaurs, or duck-billed dinosaurs, took a different approach entirely. Rather than armor or horns, they relied on social structure, group living, and keen senses for protection. These were among the most successful herbivores of the late Cretaceous, with numerous species spread across North America, Asia, and other continents. They had broad, duck-like beaks for cropping vegetation and hundreds of small teeth packed into dental batteries that allowed them to grind tough plant material efficiently. Many hadrosaurs had elaborate crests on their heads, hollow structures filled with air passages that connected to their nasal cavities. These crests likely served as resonating chambers, allowing the dinosaurs to produce loud calls that could carry over long distances. Different species had differently shaped crests, which would have produced different sounds, helping members of the same species recognize each other. Imagine a herd of Parasaurolophus calling to each other across a late Cretaceous valley, deep resonant notes echoing through the air, a prehistoric symphony of social communication. Evidence suggests that hadrosaurs nested in large colonies, with dozens or even hundreds of individuals laying eggs in close proximity. This colonial nesting behavior, similar to that seen in many modern birds, would have provided protection through numbers. While some nests were inevitably raided by predators, the sheer number of nests and the constant vigilance of many adults would have ensured that most eggs and hatchlings survived. Parental care appears to have been extensive in at least some herbivorous dinosaurs. The famous discovery of Maiasaura, whose name means good mother lizard, included a nesting colony with evidence of young dinosaurs of different ages staying near their nests. The bones of hatchlings showed that their limbs weren't fully developed at hatching, suggesting they couldn't leave the nest immediately and must have been cared for and fed by adults until they grew larger and stronger. The daily routine of these herbivorous dinosaurs was probably quite peaceful and routine. They would wake with the sun, perhaps having slept in a loose group for safety during the night. Morning would be spent foraging, moving through their territory and feeding on whatever vegetation was available and nutritious. Midday, during the hottest part of the day, they might rest in shade, allowing their digestive systems to work on the morning's meal. Afternoon would bring more feeding, and as evening approached, the group would settle down for the night in a safe location. perhaps taking turns staying alert to watch for nocturnal predators. There's something deeply comforting in imagining these peaceful herbivores, going about their lives in ancient landscapes. Their only concerns the practical ones of finding food, staying safe, and raising their young. They weren't striving for conquest or glory, weren't engaged in complex schemes or plans. They were simply living day by day in the way their species had lived for millions of years, successful and content in their ecological roles. Dinosaur senses and communication. To truly understand the lives of dinosaurs, we must consider not just what they looked like or how they moved, but how they perceived the world around them, the richness of their sensory experiences, and the ways they communicated with each other. These were not simple creatures operating on pure instinct. They had complex brains, sophisticated senses, and rich social lives that required communication and interaction. Vision was extremely important for many dinosaurs. Analysis of skulls and the size of eye sockets tells us that many theropods had excellent eyesight. Tyrannosaurus rex, for instance, had forward-facing eyes that provided binocular vision, allowing for depth perception essential for judging distances when hunting. The eyes were quite large, and studies of the eye socket and surrounding bones suggest that T. rex may have had visual acuity better than that of modern eagles, allowing it to spot potential prey from great distances. Herbivorous dinosaurs often had eyes positioned more on the sides of their heads, providing a wider field of view. This arrangement sacrificed depth perception somewhat, but allowed the animal to watch for predators approaching from almost any direction. A triceratops could see nearly 360 degrees around itself without turning its head, a crucial adaptation for an animal that needed to constantly watch for threats while feeding. Some dinosaurs also had excellent night vision. The small predatory dinosaur Shibuya, which lived in the late Cretaceous of Mongolia, had extraordinarily large eye sockets relative to its skull size, and the structure of its inner ear suggests it had exceptional hearing as well. This combination of enhanced vision and hearing indicates that Shibuya was adapted for hunting at night, perhaps feeding on small mammals and insects that were active after dark when larger predators were less active. Hearing varied considerably among dinosaurs. The shape of the inner ear, preserved in many skulls, can tell us about hearing capabilities. Parasaurolophus and other crested hadrosaurs had inner ear structures consistent with low-frequency hearing, exactly what you'd expect for animals that produced low-frequency calls using their hollow crests. They could hear each other's calls across considerable distances, maintaining contact with herd members even when they couldn't see each other. Some dinosaurs may have had excellent low-frequency hearing for detecting ground vibrations. The mechanics of this aren't fully understood, but it's possible that some species could detect the footfalls of other large animals through vibrations transmitted through the ground, similar to how elephants can sense the approach of other elephants from miles away through infrasound communication and seismic signals. The sense of smell was also highly developed in many dinosaurs. The olfactory bulbs, the parts of the brain responsible for processing smells, are visible in many fossil skulls, and their relative size can indicate how important smell was to the animal. Tyrannosaurus rex had enormous olfactory bulbs, suggesting it had an exceptional sense of smell, possibly better than that of modern vultures. This makes sense for a large predator that might need to locate food across great distances or detect the scent of potential prey or carrion on the wind. Herbivorous dinosaurs also benefited from good senses of smell. Being able to detect the scent of specific plants or the ripeness of fruits and seeds would have helped them find the most nutritious food sources. And perhaps more importantly, being able to smell approaching predators could provide crucial early warning, allowing the animal to alert the herd and prepare to flee or defend itself. Communication among dinosaurs took many forms. We've already mentioned the probable vocalizations of hadrosaurs, using their hollow crests as resonating chambers. But other dinosaurs had different ways of making sounds. Some may have produced sounds by clapping their jaws together, or by hissing, or by vibrating air through their throats. Fossils can't preserve sound, but by studying the anatomy of skulls and throats, and by comparing dinosaurs to their modern relatives, birds and crocodilians, we can make educated guesses about the sounds they might have made. Visual displays were certainly important. The bright colors preserved in some feathered dinosaurs clearly served a visual purpose, helping individuals recognize their own species and assess potential mates or rivals. Even in larger dinosaurs where skin color isn't preserved, structures like the frills of ceratopsians or the plates of stegosaurs almost certainly played roles in visual communication. Body language would have been crucial too. A threatened dinosaur might lower its head and point its horns forward, or swing its tail threateningly, or stand tall to appear larger and more intimidating. These are universal behaviors seen in modern animals, and there's no reason to think dinosaurs were any different. Social animals need ways to communicate their intentions without resorting to actual fighting, which is risky for both parties involved. Touch was probably important in dinosaur social life as well. Modern birds often preen each other's feathers, reinforcing social bonds through physical contact. Dinosaurs may have engaged in similar behaviors, perhaps using their small forelimbs or their snouts to touch and nuzzle each other. Parent dinosaurs almost certainly touched and interacted physically with their young, providing warmth, protection, and guidance. The social lives implied by these various forms of communication were rich and complex. Dinosaurs weren't solitary creatures mindlessly going through the motions of survival. They lived in groups, they recognized individuals, they formed relationships and hierarchies, they cared for their young, and they coordinated their activities with others of their kind. A herd of Edmontosaurus moving through a late Cretaceous forest was a social group, with individuals constantly aware of each other, communicating through calls and body language, making group decisions about where to feed and when to rest. There's a beautiful complexity to this picture, a richness to dinosaur life that goes far beyond the simple monsters eating each other narrative that dominated for so long. These were intelligent animals, at least within their ecological contexts, animals with individual personalities and social bonds, animals that experienced their world through multiple senses and responded to it with appropriate behaviors. They felt the warmth of the sun on their skin, heard the calls of their companions, smelled food and danger on the wind, and navigated their lives with a sophistication that we're only beginning to fully appreciate. A day in the life, Cretaceous landscapes. Let us now paint a picture of a complete day in the late Cretaceous period, about 75 million years ago, in what is now Western North America. This will help us understand not just the dinosaurs themselves, but the world they inhabited, the interconnected web of life that supported them and gave context to their existence. The sun rises over a vast floodplain crossed by meandering rivers and dotted with stands of forest. The world is warm, warmer than this region would be in the modern day, with a climate more like that of modern Louisiana or Florida, even though we're at latitudes that would now be considered temperate. There's no ice anywhere on the planet during this time, No polar ice caps, no glaciers, and sea levels are high, with shallow seas covering much of what will become the interior of North America. The first light touches the crowns of the tallest trees, ancient conifers related to modern pines and firs, their needles catching the golden dawn glow. Below them grows a thick understory of ferns, cycads, and some of the newer flowering plants that have only recently evolved and are rapidly diversifying. These angiosperms bring new colors to the landscape: the whites and yellows and pinks of their flowers, the bright greens of their broad leaves, so different from the darker, more muted greens of the conifers and cycads. As the sunlight spreads, a herd of Edmontosaurus begins to stir from their sleeping area in a grove of trees. These are large hadrosaurs, 10 meters long and weighing several tons each, and there are perhaps 20 or 30 of them in this particular group. The adults have spent the night on alert, taking turns watching for predators, but nothing disturbed them during the hours of darkness. Now, with daylight returning, they can relax somewhat and begin the day's main activity: eating. The herd moves out into the more open areas of the floodplain, spreading out to feed on the low vegetation. They're not picky eaters, consuming ferns, low branches from shrubs, fallen fruits, and even some of the flowering plants. Their duck-like beaks allow them to crop vegetation efficiently, and their batteries of grinding teeth process the tough plant material into a pulp that can be digested. The morning air is filled with the sounds of their feeding: the rustle of disturbed vegetation, the soft grunting communication between individuals, the occasional louder call as one dinosaur alerts others to particularly good feeding. In the river nearby, a group of juvenile Albertosaurus are drinking. These are young tyrannosaurs, not yet fully grown, perhaps only 15 feet long but already effective predators. They've spent the night huddled together for warmth and safety, as young tyrannosaurs often did, and now they drink deeply before beginning their own hunt for food. Small dinosaurs, mammals, lizards, anything they can catch will serve. They're too small yet to take down an adult Edmontosaurus, though in another few years, when they reach full size, such prey will be well within their capabilities. Overhead, a pterosaur soars, a large as darkid with a wingspan of perhaps 20 feet. It rides the morning thermals, rising air currents caused by the ground warming in the sun, gaining altitude with minimal effort. From its vantage point high above, it can survey vast stretches of landscape, looking for opportunities. It feeds opportunistically, sometimes hunting small dinosaurs or mammals, sometimes feeding on carrion, whatever presents itself most easily. As the morning progresses and the air warms, more of the landscape's inhabitants become active. A herd of triceratops moves through a forest of palms and cycads, the adults using their powerful beaks to break off fronds and cycad leaves. Their young stay close to their mothers, still small enough to be vulnerable to predators but growing quickly on their diet of plant matter. One large male triceratops pauses to rub his frill against a tree trunk, perhaps relieving an itch or marking his territory with scent glands. In a clearing, an ankylosaurus browses peacefully on low ferns and small shrubs. This armored dinosaur is solitary by nature, and it moves slowly and deliberately, its heavy body supported on 4 stout legs. Nothing in this environment poses a serious threat to it. Its armor is impenetrable, its tail club devastating. It simply goes about its business, eating what it needs, entirely unconcerned with the world around it. By midday, the temperature has risen considerably, and many of the dinosaurs seek shade to rest during the hottest hours. The Edmontosaurus herd moves into a grove of trees where they can escape the direct sunlight. They don't stop eating entirely, but they slow down, focusing more on digesting what they've already consumed. Some lie down, while others remain standing but rest their heads on convenient branches or outcroppings. This is the time when smaller creatures become more active. Mammals, still relatively small and mostly nocturnal during this age of dinosaurs, begin to emerge from burrows and hiding places. They're opportunistic feeders, eating insects, fruits, seeds, whatever they can find. 1. A creature roughly the size of a modern opossum climbs into a tree to raid a bird's nest, consuming the eggs it finds there. The bird, a relatively modern-looking species descended from the small feathered theropods, protests loudly but can't defend against a mammal twice its size. The rivers and wetlands are full of life as well. Turtles bask on mudflats, soaking up the warmth they need for their metabolisms. Fish leap occasionally, catching insects that skim the water's surface. A champsosaur, a crocodile-like reptile but not actually a crocodile, floats motionless in the shallows, waiting for a fish or small dinosaur to come within striking distance. In the water itself, large lungfish and gar prowl, ancient fish species that have survived relatively unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. The freshwater ecosystems are as rich and diverse as the terrestrial ones, with numerous species of fish, amphibians, and aquatic reptiles all filling different ecological niches. As afternoon arrives and the temperature begins to drop slightly, activity picks up again. The Edmontosaurus herd emerges from the shade to resume feeding, needing to consume enormous quantities of vegetation to fuel their large bodies. They'll feed intensively for several more hours, taking in as much nutrition as they can before darkness falls. The young Albertosaurus have had success in their hunting. They've brought down a young ornithomimid, one of the ostrich-like dinosaurs that were common in this time and place. The 3 young tyrannosaurs feed together, their cooperative hunting having paid off. When they've eaten their fill, they'll find a safe place to rest and digest, their bellies full for perhaps the first time in several days. As the sun begins to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, the landscape transforms again. The daytime animals begin to settle for the night, while creatures adapted for nocturnal activity start to emerge. The pterosaur that soared so high during the day returns to its roost in a tall dead tree, folding its wings and settling in for the night. The triceratops herd gathers in a defensive circle, the adults facing outward with their horns, ready to defend against any night-hunting predators that might attack the young. The Edmontosaurus return to their sleeping grove, arranging themselves into their characteristic resting formation. Some will sleep deeply, while others will remain more alert, watching and listening for danger. A full-grown Tyrannosaurus begins to move through its territory as darkness falls, starting the hunt that might occupy most of the night. This enormous predator, perhaps the largest terrestrial carnivore ever to exist, moves with surprising quiet for something that weighs 8 tons, its powerful legs carrying it steadily through the darkening landscape. The night brings its own sounds and rhythms. Small mammals become bolder, emerging fully from their burrows to feed on seeds and insects. Nocturnal dinosaurs like Shibuya hunt through the undergrowth, their large eyes and keen hearing helping them locate prey in the darkness. Frogs call from the wetlands, and crickets and other insects create a constant background chorus of chirps and buzzes. Above it all, the stars shine with a clarity rarely seen in the modern world, undimmed by any artificial light. The Milky Way stretches across the sky, and the moon, slightly larger in apparent size than it appears today because the Earth-Moon system was closer 75 million years ago, casts a silver light over the sleeping landscape. This is a world in balance, an ecosystem that has been essentially stable for millions of years, with the same basic patterns and players persisting generation after generation across unimaginable stretches of time. The smaller wonders. While the giant dinosaurs often capture our imagination, the small dinosaurs are in many ways more fascinating, more diverse, and more directly connected to the animals we know today. These smaller species filled countless ecological niches and displayed remarkable adaptations and behaviors that allowed them to thrive alongside their enormous relatives. Consider Compsognathus, one of the smallest known dinosaurs. This little theropod was roughly the size of a chicken, weighing perhaps 7 or 8 pounds at most. It lived in the late Jurassic, about 150 million years ago, in what is now Europe. Compsognathus was a predator despite its small size, with sharp teeth and grasping hands that it used to catch lizards, small mammals, and insects. Fossil evidence shows it was fast and agile, built for quick sprints and sudden changes of direction as it pursued prey through the undergrowth of Jurassic forests. What's particularly interesting about Compsognathus is how complete our knowledge of it is. Several well-preserved specimens exist, including one that contains the fossilized remains of a lizard in its stomach cavity, showing us directly what it was eating at the moment of its death. Another specimen appears to show soft tissue impressions suggesting that Compsognathus had simple feathers or protofeathers covering at least parts of its body, though this interpretation remains somewhat controversial. Microraptor, which we mentioned earlier, represents another fascinating small dinosaur. This crow-sized predator from the early Cretaceous of China had 4 wings, with long flight feathers on both its fore and hind limbs. The exact mechanics of how it flew or glided remain under discussion, but the most recent studies suggest it probably glided from tree to tree, perhaps using occasional flapping to gain altitude or adjust its trajectory. The 4-winged configuration might have given it exceptional maneuverability in flight, allowing it to navigate through dense forest canopies with ease. The lifestyle of Microraptor was probably arboreal, spending most of its time in trees where it hunted small vertebrates and insects. Fossilized stomach contents from one specimen included the remains of a fish, suggesting that Microraptors sometimes hunted near water, perhaps perching in trees overhanging rivers or lakes and diving down to catch fish like a modern kingfisher. Other specimens contain bird bones and mammal remains, showing that Microraptor was an opportunistic predator that ate whatever it could catch. Then there's Hesperonychus, a tiny dinosaur from the late Cretaceous of North America that weighed only about 4 pounds. Making it one of the smallest dinosaurs from North America. It was a member of the dromaeosaurid family, the same group that includes Velociraptor and Deinonychus, but scaled down to a fraction of their size. Despite being so small, Hesperonychus had the same basic body plan as its larger relatives. An enlarged claw on the second toe of each foot, grasping hands, and a mouth full of sharp teeth. It probably hunted insects, small mammals, and perhaps baby dinosaurs, using the same predatory strategies as its larger cousins but at a scale appropriate to its size. Small herbivorous dinosaurs were also numerous and diverse. Psittacosaurus, whose name means parrot lizard, was an early relative of Triceratops that lived during the early Cretaceous in Asia. It was about the size of a large dog, walking on two legs and using its parrot-like beak to crop vegetation. What makes Psittacosaurus particularly interesting is that we have extraordinary fossils of it, including several that preserve soft tissues and even color patterns. One famous specimen shows that Psittacosaurus had a camouflage pattern, with darker coloring on its back that graded to lighter colors on its belly, a pattern called countershading that's common in modern animals and helps them blend into their environments by counteracting the shadows created by overhead lighting. We also have fossils of Psittacosaurus showing that adults cared for groups of juveniles. One remarkable fossil from China shows an adult Psittacosaurus with 34 babies clustered around and beneath it, apparently buried together by a sudden influx of mud or volcanic ash. This suggests that Psittacosaurus engaged in extensive parental care, with adults watching over not just their own offspring but possibly the young of multiple families gathered together in a kind of dinosaur daycare. The intelligence of small dinosaurs was probably quite high relative to their body size. Brain size doesn't always correlate directly with intelligence, but generally speaking, smaller animals tend to have relatively larger brains compared to body size, and this seems to have been true for dinosaurs as well. Small theropods like Truden, which was about the size of a wolf, had large brains for their body size and were probably among the most intelligent dinosaurs. Their large eyes suggest acute vision, and their grasping hands and bipedal posture would have allowed for complex manipulation of objects and environments. These small dinosaurs often had to be more creative and adaptable than their larger relatives simply to survive. A large sauropod could rely on size for protection and could eat low-quality vegetation because it had such a massive gut to process it. But a small dinosaur had to be quick, clever, and opportunistic, taking advantage of food sources and hiding places that larger animals couldn't access, avoiding predators through stealth and speed rather than armor or size. Many of these small species were probably social animals, living in groups for protection and perhaps cooperating in hunting or defense. The discovery of numerous individuals of the same species preserved together, like the Psittacosaurus fossil mentioned earlier, suggests that group living was common. This would have required social intelligence, the ability to recognize and remember individuals, to communicate intentions and emotions, and to coordinate activities with others. There's something particularly appealing about these small dinosaurs. They're more relatable somehow than the enormous sauropods or terrifying tyrannosaurs. A chicken-sized Compsognathus, scampering through the underbrush, feels like something we could almost encounter in our own world. The idea of a crow-sized microraptor gliding from tree to tree is whimsical and delightful rather than intimidating. These were dinosaurs living at a scale we can understand, dealing with challenges we can imagine, and they succeeded for millions of years through cleverness and adaptation rather than brute force. Legacy and wonder. What dinosaurs teach us? As we approach the end of our journey through the world of dinosaurs, it's worth reflecting on what these ancient creatures teach us and why they continue to capture our imagination so completely. Dinosaurs were successful beyond almost any measure we might apply. They dominated terrestrial ecosystems for 165 million years, from the late Triassic through to the end of the Cretaceous. To put that in perspective, our own species, Homo sapiens, has existed for perhaps 300,000 years. If we were to match the dinosaurs' tenure, we would need to persist for another 164.7 million years. During their long reign, dinosaurs adapted to nearly every terrestrial environment on Earth. They evolved into forms as small as hummingbirds and as large as blue whales. They developed feathers and scales, armor and weapons, complex social structures, and solitary lifestyles. They colonized every continent, from the polar regions to the equator. They survived multiple climate changes, sea level fluctuations, and continental reconfigurations as Pangaea broke apart and the modern continents began to take shape. The fossil record of dinosaurs is remarkably complete in many ways, though of course there are still enormous gaps in our knowledge. Fossilization is a rare event, requiring specific conditions that aren't always present. An animal must die in a place where it can be quickly buried by sediment, protecting it from scavengers and decay. The sediment must then be undisturbed for millions of years as it slowly turns to stone, with minerals replacing the original bone material cell by cell. Finally, the fossil must be exposed again through erosion or tectonic activity, and it must be found before it erodes away completely. Despite these long odds, we have thousands of dinosaur fossils from hundreds of species, representing every major group and every period of the Mesozoic era. Some of these fossils are extraordinarily complete and beautifully preserved, like the feathered dinosaurs from China with their colors still visible, or the mummified hadrosaur specimens with skin and soft tissue intact. Others are more fragmentary, perhaps just a few bones or teeth, but even these can tell us valuable information about the animals they came from. Each new fossil discovery adds to our understanding and sometimes forces us to revise previous ideas. The discovery of feathered dinosaurs in the 1990s completely transformed our view of what dinosaurs looked like and how they behaved. The ongoing discovery of soft tissues preserved in some fossils, including what appear to be blood vessels and proteins, continues to push the boundaries of what we thought possible in paleontology. Even fossils discovered decades ago can yield new information when examined with modern techniques like CT scanning or chemical analysis. What dinosaurs teach us is the incredible persistence and adaptability of life. They remind us that species don't need to be the smartest or the strongest to succeed. They just need to be well adapted to their particular environments and able to change when those environments change. The meek truly can inherit the Earth, as the small ancestors of the dinosaurs did in the early Triassic, and as our own small mammalian ancestors did after the dinosaurs' end. They also teach us about extinction and the contingent nature of history. The dinosaurs' reign ended 66 million years ago when an asteroid struck what is now the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. The impact created a crater over 100 miles wide and triggered catastrophic global changes. Massive amounts of dust and debris were thrown into the atmosphere, blocking sunlight and causing temperatures to plummet. Acid rain fell, wildfires raged, and ecosystems collapsed. Within perhaps just a few years, all non-avian dinosaurs were extinct, along with the pterosaurs, the large marine reptiles, and countless other species. But life persisted. The small dinosaurs that had already taken to the air, the ancestors of modern birds, survived. Small mammals survived. Crocodiles, turtles, many fish species, and numerous plant species made it through. The world that emerged from this catastrophe was different, emptier in some ways but full of opportunity in others. Mammals, which had been small and largely nocturnal during the age of dinosaurs, diversified rapidly to fill the ecological niches left vacant. Within 10 million years, there were large mammalian herbivores and predators, and the stage was set for the age of mammals that continues to this day. This teaches us both about the fragility and the resilience of life. A single catastrophic event can end lineages that had persisted for hundreds of millions of years. No amount of prior success guarantees future survival, but life as a whole is remarkably persistent. Some species will survive almost any catastrophe, and from those survivors, given time, diversity will rebuild. This has happened over and over in Earth's history, with every major extinction event followed eventually by a recovery and diversification. For us as humans, looking back at the dinosaurs, there's also a kind of companionship across the ages. When we find a fossil, we're connecting directly with an individual animal that lived millions of years ago. That Triceratops skull in a museum was once the head of a living, breathing creature that felt sunshine and rain, that ate and drank and slept, that perhaps had companions it recognized and places it preferred. The distance in time is almost incomprehensible, and yet the connection is undeniable. We're all part of the same story, the continuing story of life on Earth. There's also deep wonder in the contemplation of deep time. Humans struggle to truly comprehend spans of time much longer than our own lifetimes. 1,000 years seems ancient to us. 1,000,000 years is nearly unimaginable. But the dinosaurs existed for 165 million years. The Earth itself is 4.5 billion years old. Life has existed for perhaps 3.8 billion years. These numbers are so large they lose meaning unless we really sit with them and try to grasp what they represent. Imagine compressing the entire history of Earth into a single year. The planet forms on January 1st. Life appears around the end of February. For months and months, life is exclusively single-celled, invisible to the naked eye. Complex multicellular life doesn't appear until mid-November. The dinosaurs rise to dominance in mid-December and rule until December 26th. Modern humans appear in the last few hours of December 31st. All of recorded human history occurs in the final minute of the year. This perspective shows us our place in the grand scheme of things, how recent we are, how brief our existence has been so far. And yet, we're the ones who can look back and understand this history. We can dig up fossils, analyze them, reconstruct the animals they came from, and imagine what their world was like. We can appreciate the beauty and diversity of life that came before us. We can feel kinship with these ancient creatures despite the millions of years that separate us. In this sense, the dinosaurs live on, not just in their bird descendants, but in our knowledge and imagination, in the wonder they inspire and the questions they raise. As you drift toward sleep now, let your mind wander through Mesozoic landscapes. Picture the gentle giants browsing treetops, the colorful feathered dinosaurs flitting through forests, the peaceful herbivores moving in great herds across ancient plains. Imagine warm sunlight filtering through unfamiliar trees, the calls of dinosaurs echoing across valleys, the slow, patient rhythms of a world that endured for longer than we can truly comprehend. These creatures lived, they thrived, they raised their young, and they passed on their genes for millions and millions of years. They were successful beyond measure, and though their time eventually ended, their legacy remains. In the birds that sing each morning, in the fossils that tell their stories, and in our continuing fascination with their existence. Let this knowledge be a comfort as you rest. You are part of an unbroken chain of life that stretches back billions of years, through humans and mammals, through dinosaurs and the creatures that came before them, all the way back to the first simple organisms in ancient seas. You are connected to all of it, part of the same grand story, and that story continues in you and through you. Sleep well, knowing that life persists, that change is constant but continuity remains, and that wonder and beauty exist in every age, including our own. If you've enjoyed this journey through deep time, this exploration of the most relaxing dinosaur facts, please consider liking this video and subscribing to Deep Science Sleep. There's so much more to explore, so many more fascinating stories from Earth's deep past and the wonders of science. Until next time, rest well, and let the peaceful giants of the Mesozoic watch over your dreams.